you can draw this in Procreate. I'm super excited about this Procreate tutorial because it's both super easy to follow, but you'll also get a super cute, sparkly end result. And of course, along the way, you'll learn a lot of fantastic tricks that you can use in Procreate. So what are you waiting for? Grab your Apple Pencil. For this tutorial, we're working on a canvas that is 2,500 pixels by 2,500 pixels. We'll be using brushes that are already in the app Procreate, and I have linked a color palette down in the description. It's totally free. So if you're ready, let's get started. Let's start off by changing the color of our background. We'll go to the layer menu, the two little squares, and then we'll tap background color, and then we'll pick this first color in the first row. And then we'll grab a brush, we'll go to the calligraphy brushes and grab the monoline brush. And then for the color, we'll grab this one. That's the second color in the first row. Now the opacity should be at 100%, and you can set the size to 30% for instance. Then let's draw a circle like this, and then hold your pen in place and tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly round circle. Let's go for something like this. And you can tap circle here at the top if you want to move it around. Let's place it in the center here. And then drag in the color by dragging the circle in here. Then we'll make another circle. We can actually just duplicate this one. We can go to the layer menu and then slide to the left, tap duplicate, and then grab the third color in the first row. And let's drag it on there. And then go to the move and transform tool. That's the little arrow up here. Make sure you set it to uniform. And I make this circle a little bit smaller by dragging the corner and then move it around, maybe a little bit smaller, and place it in the center of the other circle. I have magnetics turned on. Let me turn that off. We can turn snapping on to find that center of the other circle like this, and then tap the arrow. Then let's grab another brush. I'd like to go to the inking brushes and use the studio pen. Now with this brush, the harder you press, the thicker your line will become if you are using a pen like the Apple Pencil. Now the opacity should be at 100% as well, and I have the size set to 20%. And let's add a little thingy at the top, just like this. Doesn't have to be super big. We can color it in like this. This is the top part of our bauble. And then let's make another layer on top. So we'll go to the layer menu and then we'll tap the plus. And then for the color, let's grab this one. Second color in the second row. And then we'll make these semicircles here. And then go up and connect this. Now we can zoom in a little bit to get a bit more control. Let's go for something like this. Now we can stay zoomed in like this. Then let's make another layer underneath this one. So first we need to tap this layer, then we'll tap the plus, and then we'll add a little ring like this. And of course you can hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen if you want a perfectly round circle. And then let's create the eyes. Let's go to this layer and then tap the plus. And then for the color, let's grab this one, fourth color in the first row. And for the brush, let's go back to the calligraphy brushes and use the monoline brush. And then let's draw a circle. So like this. You could tap your finger on the screen for a perfectly round circle and then drag in the color. Then let's duplicate this. Now you can either do that by going to the layer menu again, or you can slide down with 3 fingers and then use duplicate. And then we'll move that one to this side. Let me turn off the snapping over here. And let's place it about here. And then what I'd like to do is change the shape of these eyes a little bit. Let's first put them on the same layer or merge them. We can pinch these layers together. And then let's go to the magic wand and to liquefy. I have it set to push with distortion and momentum set to none. And for the size, we can play around a bit. I'd like to make the lower part of the eyes a little bit more flat here as well. So we can push and pull a little bit. And you can see that I'm on, well, mostly on the outside of the shape. But sometimes on the inside if I want to make it a little bit bigger, for instance. But this way you can really easily change the shape of the eyes without having to like draw it. Then let's add some lashes. And now let's tap the brush again and let's go back to the studio pen. And perhaps we need to make it a bit smaller. Well, it's actually okay. Let's make 2 little lashes here and 2 over here. And then let's add highlights. For the highlights, we'll use this color, 5th color in the first row. And we'll add a big one and a small one. And over here on the same side, big one and a small one. Then for the mouth, let's grab this color. That's the 6th color in the first row. And then let's make a semicircle like this. Hold your pen in place. And you can also use edit here to change the angle, the size. You've got lots of control. You can move it around. Let's place it about here in between the eyes. And tap the brush to get out of that menu. Next, I'd like to add rosy cheeks. Let's do that on a layer underneath this one. So first we'll tap this one, then we'll tap the plus, and then we'll grab this color, 7th color in the first row. And let's make one over here. You can just color it in by hand, and then one over here. So it's slightly underneath the eye. And now we can actually merge this layer with this one. It's okay if it's on the same layer, but it's nice to initially work on a separate layer in case you want to erase anything or if you want to move stuff around. But now I'm happy with these cheeks, so it can be merged. And next, let's add some stars to our bauble. Let's go to this layer and then tap the plus. And then for our color, let's grab this one, 3rd color in the 2nd row. And let's make a star. Start with a triangular shape like this. And then triangles like this. And then 2 over here. And then we'll color that in. You can adjust it a little bit. And let's move it around a bit. Let's go to the Move and Transform tool. Let's place it here. And you could also transform it. You could go to Distort, for instance, if you wanted to look a bit more like this. You can use these handles. I think this is nice. Then tap the arrow. And now we are going to duplicate this star a couple of times so we can add more stars to our bauble. You could also draw them by hand, but duplicating this one can save you some time. So let's slide down with 3 fingers, then use duplicate. And now let's move this one over here. Then we can use uniform, make it smaller. And now we can use distort to change it a bit and change the perspective a bit. So this side, which is closer to the viewer, should be a little bit longer, and this should be a little bit shorter. Then tap the arrow. And now we can duplicate this one again, slide down, tap duplicate. Then let's go here, rotate it with the green handle, make this one smaller, and tap the arrow. And it's nice to every once in a while go back to our first star and duplicate that one. Because if you pick a small one and if you want to make it bigger, then it could get a little bit pixelated. So let's slide down, use duplicate, And let's place one over here. And we can use the stored again. Make this closer together, just a little bit wider. And tap the arrow. Then slide down with 3 fingers again. Use duplicate. Move this one over here. Again, we can use the stored. Tap the arrow. Then let's go back to our first star again. Slide down with 3 fingers. Use duplicate. Make it smaller. Let's make a small star over here. Use the stored. Tap the arrow. And let's duplicate this one. And move that one over here. So now we have all our stars. We can pinch these layers together, all of our stars, to save some layer space. And then next, I'd like to add a little drop shadow. A drop shadow is the shadow that drops on a surface. So that's the shadow on the underground that's caused by the bauble. So let's tap the plus for a new layer. And let's tap and hold it. And then drag it to the bottom. And then for our color, let's grab this one. First color in the second row. And for the brush, let's go to our monoline brush, which is perfect for clean circles and ovals. So let's draw an oval. Hold your pen in place. Let's go for something like this. And if you tap your finger on the screen, it'll be like perfectly horizontal. Then we can tap ellipser at the top. You could make it a little bit thinner, put it close to the bauble. And let's go for something like this and then drag in the color. Now let's go ahead and shade our bauble. Let's go to this layer over here. Then we'll tap the plus for a new layer on top. And we are going to set this new layer to clipping mask so that whatever we paint on here, it will only show up on our bauble. Then we'll tap the N. It's set to normal right now, our layer, but we are going to scroll up to multiply because multiply is great for adding shadows. And we'll do that by using a soft brush, the soft brush under airbrushing. And for the color, let's use this one. Second color in the first row. Now the opacity of this brush is set to 80%, and let's set the size to 13%. And then let's go along this area. This is the form shadow. So here we have the drop shadow, and this is the shadow that is on the form itself. Because light is coming from this direction, it's hitting here, and it can't reach on this side. And it's also blocking, the bauble is blocking the light, and that's causing that drop shadow. So let's imagine that area where the light can't really reach. And just make a rounded motion here. Then for some extra shadow, let's make the brush a bit smaller, perhaps like 4%. And add some shadow here. Underneath that thingy. And then let's go even smaller, like 2% for some shadow, like underneath these stars. Just a little drop shadow. And over here. Because we have this inner part of our bauble and we have the outer part, that glass, and those stars are on there and they are casting this shadow. For this area, we can perhaps use a darker color. Well, it's actually okay. think this looks really nice. And let's also add a bit of an extra shadow at the bottom. Let's grab a darker color, this one. First color in the second row. I hope you're having fun so far. Is your Bauble looking happy yet? I just want to take a very short moment to tell you about Patreon, especially in case you are new to the channel, because Patreon is the place to go if you really want to get your Procreate drawing and painting skills to the next level. Because over there I have hundreds of tutorials. Yes, literally hundreds. You'll get a whole bunch of brushes, there are workbooks, and of course it's also just a really wonderful community. So if you are serious about learning digital drawing and painting in Procreate, or if this is starting to turn into an addiction, then you should definitely check that out. But now let's continue working on our Bauble. And let's go along this edge, being very careful. Adding a slight shadow edge. Now we could also darken the shadow a bit. Wonderful. Next, let's add some light. Let's make another layer. Let's tap the plus, set that to clipping mask as well. And I will tap the N again, but now we'll scroll down to screen, which is great for highlights. First, we'll grab this color again, a second color in the first row. And let's make the brush a bit bigger again, maybe like 11%. And then let's lighten up this area. Rounded motions again. Just go for something like this. Now I don't want it to interfere with the shadow too much, so we could just switch these. We can tap and hold this one, put it underneath, so we can still see those nice shadows of our stars. And perhaps we can also add a little bit of like an edge light, some bounced light. It bounces back up to this edge of our Bauble. And let's use a lighter color for that. Maybe we can use this one, third color in the first row, to make the brush smaller, like 2%. And then we'll go along this edge. And I think we can actually go even lighter. Let's grab this color, fifth color in the first row, to make the brush even smaller, like 1%. And add a thin edge of light. Next, we'll go to this layer that is underneath our Bauble, and we are going to add a layer mask to it. We'll tap this layer and then tap mask. And now on this layer mask, we can paint with black to make parts of this shape transparent. So we'll stick with our soft brush, but we'll make it a bit bigger. Let's go for like 10%. And then let's go over some of these areas, making it a bit transparent. You can see the shadow now. Something like this. We'll do the same or something similar for our shadow here. Let's tap that layer. Then use mask, and then let's just fade this area a bit. Make that shadow fade as it moves away from our Bauble. A bit over here as well. Let's go for something like this. Next, let's move to our stars. Once you're happy with your Bauble here with the shadow and light, by the way, you can pinch these together. I'll just keep this one on a separate layer for now. Then let's go to the stars. Let's tap the plus and then set the new layer to clipping mask, just like we did with the Bauble. And then let's set the layer blending mode to multiply. And then for the brush, I'd like to go to the drawing brushes and use the gloaming brush. And for the color, let's just use this one, second color in the first row. Opacity of this brush is at 100%. Let's set the size to perhaps 20. Let's check. I think that should work. We'll add some shadow on these left sides. Over here as well. And perhaps this one is completely in shadow. Maybe for that one we can soften it a bit with the soft brush. We can just add some of this color here. Make the brush a bit smaller, like a small 3%. Add some shadow on this one and over here. We can soften this a little bit as well. And now let's add a light touch. Let's tap the plus for a new layer and set that to clipping mask. And this time we'll set the layer blending mode to color dodge. That can give some really bright effects. And for the color, we'll use this one, second color in the second row. And we'll go back to our gloaming brush under drawing. And then let's add these light edges. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, like 7%. Now let's just make these bright edges. And over here. You don't have to go along all the edges. Mostly the ones that would catch some light. So mostly the ones on the right sides. And we can also use that soft brush again under airbrushing and add a bit more glow. And over here. A little bit over here. Something like this. And I'd like to add a dark little edge around it. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, set that to clipping mask, then tap the N and scroll up to multiply again. And then for the color, let's use this one again. Second color in the first row. Then for the brush, let's go back to the drawing brushes and use the gloaming brush. Let's set the size to 3%. And let's go along the edges. And refine those a bit. It will make these stars stand out a bit more. Over here as well. Just go along all the edges. Almost there. This one. And finally this one. Next we'll work on this part at the top. Let's start with this one. Let's tap the plus. By the way, if you're happy with your stars, you can pinch those layers together, of course, to save some layer space. Now for this layer, set it to clipping mask, tap the N and scroll up to multiply. And then for the color, let's grab this one second color in the second row. And let's make the brush a bit bigger, maybe 15%. See, that's quite nice. We can actually also use the soft brush to make it a bit softer. And then we'll switch to the gloaming brush under drawing and grab a darker color, this one, first color in the second row. And then we'll choose that to add some extra detail. Add some edges here. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 8%. Some little edges. Maybe a dark part at the top. And then for the light, let's add another layer. Let's tap the plus, set that to clipping mask as well, and then set the layer blending mode to screen. Then let's first grab this color, second color in the second row, and let's use the soft brush again. And then let's go over this area, add some bright light, and then let's grab our drawing brush again, our gloaming brush, and let's add a lighter color, fifth color in the first row. And let's add bright edge here. Perhaps a bright highlight here. And I will do something similar for this little ring. So we'll tap the plus, set the new layer to clipping mask, tap the N, scroll up to multiply, then we'll grab this color, second color in the second row, and then let's go over that underside. And then let's go even darker with this color, first color in the second row, and add a darker touch. And then the same with the highlights, tap the plus, set the new layer to clipping mask, tap the N, and scroll down to screen. And then let's immediately grab this color, fifth color in the first row, add a bright highlight at the top. Then let's add some more shine and highlight on the glass around our bauble. Let's make a new layer on top of our stars. Let's tap the plus, and then let's tap this layer over here, our main, a big circle, tap it, and then use select. Now make sure that color fill over here is not turned on. It shouldn't be blue. It should look like this. So you have your selection now. Now we can grab our brush. We can go to the airbrushing brushes, use the soft brush, and we'll go back to our new layer over here. And then with our white, let's go along the edges, adding a glass effect. Also over here, you can see that my brush, my pen is mostly outside of the shape. So I can really create a thin edge. Over here, I'll make it a little bit wider. So over here as well. And let's also add a little bit of a highlight over here. Following that curve, we can also add some highlight here. That will add that extra shine effect. Maybe brighten this a bit more. I think this looks good. Let's turn off our selection. Now for a final effect, let's add a little glow and a bunch of sparkles. Let's first go to our shadow layer here. Let's tap the plus, and with our light color and our soft brush, set it to a big size, like 17%. And let's go behind our bauble, add a slight glow using very little pressure. Let's just go for something like this. It's very subtle. Then for our brush, we'll go to the luminance brushes and use the light pen. And we'll use that on a layer on top of all the others. Let's go to the top, tap the plus. Now the opacity of this brush should be at 100%. And we can set the size to 50. Now with this brush, the harder you press, the bigger your sparkle will become. We are going to add, that's a bit too big, a bunch of sparkles, not just around our bauble, but also in front of it. Try to vary the sizes a bit by varying your pressure. This is just that nice extra touch. Perhaps a bit more over here. Yeah, I think this is enough. Our bauble looks happy. Now go ahead and share your happy bauble with the world, and then I'll see you next time for the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.